available to you after the session is over, so you can go back to it and refer to it anytime that you want. So thank you again for following our housekeeping rules to make this go smoothly. And I'd like to introduce myself really quickly. My name is Heather Mayfield. I'm the district manager for the Kenton County Soil and Water Conservation District. We're actually located right on the border of the Ohio River and the Licking River in northern Kentucky. I'm also proud to be part of the Ohio River Basin Alliance, member of the Knowledge and Education to Inform Decisions work group, and also a member of ORBA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Accountability Subcommittee. So thank you for joining us today. Really quickly, before I forget, I do want to plug our March webinar. Make sure you join us at the same time, same place next month for the Ohio River discussion series. Next month's topic is actually going to focus on Ohio River historic lock houses and wicket dam sites. So this is going to be a really cool presentation that's going to review an exciting initiative to identify existing operating or abandoned or vacant federal and state lock houses on the Ohio River that could be used or expanded for recreational and educational purposes. And that will be hosted by ORBA's Nature-Based Recreation Working Group. All right, so thank you for being here today, and we certainly hope to see you next month. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and do just a quick introduction of our speakers. For today's Citizen Science and Outreach topic, we'll be having Melissa McAllister, who is the Kentucky River Basin Coordinator and Chair of Kentucky Watershed Watch, with us today. We'll have Jen Bowman, who's Director of Environmental Programs at Ohio University's Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Service, joining us, as well as Laura Mattingly, who's a Planner and Project Manager with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Louisville District. All right, so the first intro I'm going to give will be for our first speaker, Melissa McAllister. As I mentioned before, Melissa is with the is the Kentucky River Basin Coordinator and is also Chair of Watershed Watch in Kentucky. She's also with the University of Kentucky with the Kentucky Water Resources Research Institute. So Melissa has been involved in many aspects of Kentucky's Watershed Watch organization, from water sampling to running samples to the labs, to analyzing and presenting sampling results, to volunteer coordination, and now, of course, she's chair of this statewide organization that's been around for quite a while. And she also serves as a Kentucky River Basin Coordinator through the Division of Water. And in that role, she assists with watershed initiatives throughout the basin. So I'm excited to have Melissa here today because, as I mentioned, this organization has been around for quite a while. So she's going to give us a retrospective of the organization and talk about some future directions they'll be taking. So Melissa, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Heather. Hi, everyone. Even though I can't see you, this is the new world we live in. I'm happy to be here today and talk a little bit about Watershed Watch. I took over as chair in 2020, which was an interesting time to do that. But before that, I had helped with Kentucky River's Watershed Watch program, which is just part of the overall statewide organization. So I'm going to start with just a little history about Watershed Watch in Kentucky. It started in the 1990s with Kentucky's watershed management framework. So that was an approach that the state transitioned to manage water quality and address any issues throughout the state with a rotating river basin focus throughout these basins that you see in the state of Kentucky. And it was a 5-year cycle. And out of that, they had basin sampling efforts that transitioned through each of these basins to provide local support and input as they rotated around the state. And then these basin organizations formed from that as kind of their own entities with some staff support from the Kentucky Division of Water. In the 2000s, these basin organizations continued to function as volunteer sampling projects with some centralized coordination through what was called an interbasin coordinating committee that was then formalized into its own organization in 2008. And then there were three major partners that helped with that: the Division of Water, the Kentucky Waterways Alliance, and the Cumberland chapter of the Sierra Club. And then in the 2010s and 2020s, the leadership of the statewide organization made it more of an effort to align these individual basin organizations as far as when the sampling occurred, the methodology, the timing, data consistency, and to help with fundraising to support the efforts. So this has caused some confusion throughout the years, but so there are there's 7 individual basin organizations like Green River Watershed Watch, Kentucky River Watershed Watch, but then there's an umbrella organization called Watershed Watch in Kentucky that tries to coordinate the whole thing. So what do? We do trainings that help volunteers learn how to do field chemistry analysis and habitat and biological assessments in the field. We loan out equipment that you see in the top middle photo, and we also coordinate these 3 sampling events each year where we provide the sampling bottles that then go to the lab for analysis, and then that culminates each year in basin conferences where we present the findings from the sampling efforts. The main focus is on sampling and assessing streams throughout the state. And part of that is out of the recognition that the Kentucky Division of Water can only monitor so much in the state with the limited resources that they have. For instance, in the 2016 state report on water quality, only about 15% of our streams were assessed. So the screening data from our volunteers really helps fill in the gaps. And so this is a picture of the kits we loan out for field chemistry analysis at the stream for dissolved oxygen, pH, conductivity, and temperature. And this is a picture of the sampling bottles that we provide, along with the chain of custody form that accompany those to the lab for grab samples, mainly with analysis for E. coli. And we also have the habitat assessment approach, which we have a new simplified approach that we're unrolling this year. The prior one was based on the EPA's rapid bioassessment protocol, but the terminology and approach was a little intimidating to our volunteers. So we decided to adapt one from Maryland that makes it a little more approachable, and hopefully more volunteers will be willing to use that. And then we do also have biological assessment protocol that we are hoping to simplify a little bit this year too for the same reason. This is the sampler equipment that we loan. It's about a $200 value, so we loan it to participants for the duration of their participation, and then we ask that when they're finished, they return the equipment to the program so we can reissue it to new samplers. So as I mentioned, we have our 3 annual sampling events. Those take place in the spring, summer, and fall, so May, July, September. In the spring and summer, we do the field chemistry and pathogens, that being E. coli. And then in the fall, some of the basins, especially the Kentucky River one, also looks at nutrients and metals. Those are followed up by data summary reports and the presentations at our annual conferences, some of which are occurring this month and next month. And then also we post the results on our website, through our website, and through a public database that we set up about 5 years ago in coordination with the Kentucky Geological Survey. And there was a lot of effort that went into kind of reformatting our historical sampling results so they're all aligned and comparable and searchable through this data portal by different things like the site number, the sampler name, the stream name, county, and we couldn't have done this without the Kentucky Geological Survey, so we really appreciate their help. And this map shows sampling sites across the state by basin, with the faded out ones being historical inactive sites, and the bolder ones are our active sampling sites. We also have a volunteer lake monitoring program. That is one in which samplers go out every couple weeks during the recreation season and submit general observations through an app that we created, and also take Secchi depth measurements. That is helping us, along with the Division of Water, track the potential for harmful algal blooms, and that's been a pretty popular program so far. We're also trying to roll out our 4-H Stream Team program for youth. We had big ideas about getting that going in 2020, and of course, you know what happened there. We weren't able to interact with kids so much that year, so some of those are really getting going this year, and we're excited to have that, that collaboration with youth and adults in the community. In addition to that, we really encourage outreach and education of our volunteers and the different basin organizations throughout the state, whether that's tabling at community events or doing like in the stream table to teach kids about you know, waterways throughout the state and how they function. We also do some recreational outings like canoe rides and other fun picnic events. And then community projects. We have groups that do cleanups or tree plantings, stream walks, things like that. Another effort that I wanted to mention is we do partner in communities to have special collaborations, such as this one that is in Lexington, where samplers have been helping the city of Lexington with assessment of the watersheds in the county, the stream sites, but also their stormwater outfalls, and to try to help detect, for instance, sewage breaks throughout the city or just illicit discharges that are contaminating the streams. And that's been a really successful program there. So switching gears a little bit, when I took this chair position on, we were just starting a grant project that was funded to help us do some strategic planning and especially financial planning to try to make the organization more sustainable, because we really rely on just grants and some minor fundraising. And so it was led to a lot of kind of soul searching and questions and discussions of our volunteers. We did a big survey of all our volunteers that gave us some really helpful feedback. We also met with the leadership in each of the basins to see what they were thinking of, you know, how things stand and where we need to go. And we had a facilitator-led strategic planning effort to help us, you know, think through how Watershed Watch could best benefit the state and what we need to do to make that happen. And so the volunteer survey said that, number one, volunteers want to make a difference. They want to see some kind of follow-on actions, whether that's use of the data by the Kentucky Division of Water or some kind of assistance with action in the community to address their findings. They also like the idea of some kind of collaborative action rather than the onus kind of being placed on them as an individual volunteer, and some kind of Watershed Watch support for community awareness. They also asked for help with publicizing successes that we've had so that maybe that can help inspire and inform our volunteers and help them feel more comfortable with these actions. And then some want some opportunity for more focused sampling, so like targeted sampling sites, special parameters, help with that so it will lead to more impactful data that could possibly help with state level decision making and policy. So those are interesting findings from the volunteers. This is a quote from one of our volunteers that says, "I think more information needs to be shared about why we're sampling and what the results are used for." So we took that to heart. We also talked with the basin leadership and did hear some common challenges from throughout the state. Several of them are having some difficulty with volunteer recruitment and retention, which it's a tricky time during COVID, but also maybe with younger volunteers switching to more social media and maybe wanting to see kind of more immediate results and impacts rather than just waiting over 5 years to see what their sampling results say. Most of the basins are having some issues with funding to help support the lab analysis and sampling supplies, keeping volunteers engaged, and so they don't walk away from the program, because that longer term data really is helpful for us to have, obviously. Helping the samplers provide more meaningful data, helping them interpret it to understand what their data means. Some of the basins have had leadership kind of waning, like kind of dropping off because they've been in those roles for a long time. How best to communicate now, who can help with that, and then time to do what needs to be done. These are all volunteer basin steering committees that probably we could do with some more staff support. I threw in this next graphic to give you an idea of active sampling sites and how we do have quite a variety in the number of sampling sites that are active per basin, with the Kentucky River Basin being the most active. But we do have quite a few sites that have longer term data where we could really start to look at some trends, or where we obviously have some issues that we could focus on. So this has led us to a strategic plan that is going to help with strategies for the next 3 years to help strengthen Watershed Watch. And we have 6 different goal areas, one being financial support, so ways to attract donors through clear funding options. Organizational, we really hope to pursue the hiring of an executive director to help oversee the implementation of the strategic plan and make sure we can really carry it out. Outreach to help the basins with shared messaging and communications to attract new samplers and keep them engaged. Basin support, we see a need for each of the basins to have some kind of stable entity to help them, maybe a community college, university, conservation district, some kind of base of operations. Community education and outreach. This is to help with the kind of the overall sampler experience and give them sampler participation, like satisfaction. And then science advisory, that's always key for this organization, making sure our data is solid and helping with data interpretation and how that data can be used. So this strategic plan, our next steps are to continue with our general sampling program and core activities that I described in the beginning. Also, we have work committees assigned to each of those strategic plan goals to help make sure that we carry those out through a work plan. We have a development director that's helping with our fundraising efforts to implement the plan. And then we're really trying to learn from other states and try to adapt, but and build from what's been successful in other states. So that's the end of my presentation. That's my contact information and the website, and I'm happy to answer questions I guess at the end.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's amazing how much Watershed Watch in Kentucky has accomplished. And that statistic that you shared of, only 15% of the streams can currently be officially monitored by actual state staff. I mean, it really does underscore the need for volunteers. That's wonderful. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into our next speaker. And thank you, Melissa. Our next speaker is Jen Bowman. She is the Director of Environmental Programs at Ohio University's Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Affairs. She is also the fearless leader of ORBA's Knowledge and Education to Inform Decisions work group. So I've really enjoyed getting the chance to work with Jen over the past year. Jen also has a lot of experience in watershed assessment and data management. She actually led the effort to produce an Esri GIS-based data platform called watersheddata.com. And this platform hosts chemical and biological data for the state of Ohio and contains over 59,000 records of water quality data. And it also includes a graphing and mapping feature. And in addition to that, it also contains free online lesson plans, virtual tours, and training videos for teachers, as well as a citizen scientist data platform for the state of Ohio that's called My Backyard Stream. And that citizen science platform is what Jen is going to talk about in her presentation today. So go ahead, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Melissa. That was a great presentation for across the state of Kentucky, and maybe we'll be there someday. We're in our beginning stages here with My Backyard Stream. So I am with the Voinovich School at Ohio University, and we have 2 degree granting programs, the Master's of Public Administration and the Master's of Environmental Studies. Our environmental work spans from watershed assessments to asset mine drainage reclamation, environmental education, doing stream assessments, and working on research projects that our graduate students get involved with for agency folks like ODNR and ODOT and so on. So that's just a little bit of background about the Voinovich School. So this project, the work that we do at the Voinovich School, is very applied, and this goes hand in hand with our environmental education program. And this project was developed about 3 years ago with funds from American Electric Power as Foundation Ohio, and the platform has been in existence for those 3 years, and you can see the 3 clusters of folks that are using it right now in Ohio. And what this is an online data platform for citizen science data. So this is what we consider in Ohio level 1 data. These are volunteers. These are folks with very limited training, but eager to get out to the streams in their area or their location and collect data and share it publicly. So the water quality observations are not set in stone what can be collected. They can use their own equipment, they can borrow equipment, and then once they collect it, they can upload it to this data platform. So this is an ArcGIS, Esri ArcMap format, and you can see all the photos run along the bottom tab that are different bubbles or locations that citizen science folks have made a submission. So what we wanted to do with this was to help grow this, and the main objectives for My Backyard Stream is to promote citizen science, volunteer monitoring Ohio River Basin, to engage the public in water quality issues, and to help make those watershed connections for trends in data, what's upstream, what's downstream, how are we part of a drainage system, and provide those resources to our educators. one of the resources that we provide for teachers are lesson plans. And these lesson plans, again, were developed within that last 3-year time frame to provide background. What we found was, we have those 3 clusters of folks that are using My Backyard Stream right now in Ohio, but there seems like the educators in our area, teachers especially, could use a little help in delivering this material to their students. And so we developed lesson plans that teachers or any educators could use, really, that were based on the 5E instructional model. And if you're not familiar with this model, it's engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. And those 5 E's are really based on how students learn and from their own experiences. And so it's very student-centered, it's hands-on, it's collaborative, it engages students in pulling prior knowledge of what they know of the subject matter, and then move through the next steps to explore and to be hands-on and get that learning aspect while doing. And then there's an explain model that students will be able to gain new information, new knowledge that will help shape their previous information that they know on the subject matter. Elaborate is how they can then apply it, and so we call those elaborate or extends. And so they've learned this, now how can they apply that to a new situation, and then evaluate. So My Backyard Stream lesson plan, the format looks like this, and this is all accessible on watersheddata.com. It starts with our Ohio science standards, so what will be covered by doing this lesson for teachers, and that's really important that they're making connections to their science standards. It gives an overview, length, course objectives, and then steps through all the materials that are needed, and those materials that have been created, such as PowerPoints or field note-taking sheets, videos, those are all accessible on watersheddata.com under the Education tab. And so then the lesson plan is broken up into each of those 5 E's, like we talked about: engage, explore in this case is to actually go out and do the water quality collection. The explain would be to help facilitate that discussion about why are the water quality measurements you take different? What do they mean? How does that relate to standards? How does this apply to knowledge about what might be going on in the watershed? So some of those questions are dove into a little deeper. And then an elaborate here is, or an extend is for them to write a paragraph or to write a letter to their city council or to their school to talk about what they discovered or to ask questions. And then the evaluate. Okay, so those materials that I just discussed were all just developed in those last 3 years. And what we saw also when talking with teachers is that they needed materials. Now we have these lesson plans, they have the platform, we kind of build it all backwards. Here's the platform, here's how you do it, and now we need the tools. And so we wrote a grant to the Ohio Environmental Education Fund, OEF, through Ohio EPA, and received the funds to put together these kits. We have 15 collaborators right now in the state of Ohio who will be receiving these kits, and will provide training and streamside demonstrations to get them going so they can have a good example and be able to have all these materials. So the kit has 4 duplicates of each of these sets of materials so that you can work with groups up to 20. So that's good for classroom sizes or large groups. And then we broke it down into 3 units: chemical water quality, biological, and physical habitat. So our chemical has things such as that we've seen earlier: 5-in-1 test strips, conductivity sensors, your calibration solutions, thermometer. For the biology, we have some macroinvertebrate net. It's not in this picture here, the large long pole dip net, and flashcards that go along with that are laminated to help with identification of macroinvertebrates, fish nets, a sorting tub for looking at your critters you find, forceps, and magnifying view. Along with that, we are putting in sheets, collection sheets for all of these. For the biological kit, that'll be Isaac Walton League to look at, very entry-level, level 1 analysis of the macroinvertebrates. And then for the physical habitat, we're looking at the substrate. So we put calipers in there. You can do some measurements of your different pebble counts, and a stopwatch and measuring tape to do some surface flow, discharge measurements, and a transparency tube to look at turbidity. This is a map here of our collaborators that we're working with right now. There are a collection of folks from soil and water conservation districts, watershed groups, NGOs, such as the Ohio Museum Complex, and the Nature Conservancy, to name a few of those. And those collaborators will be getting these kits, and then they have reach into these additional counties. So now we're covering 20 counties with those kits and those grants. So those units will then be able to be distributed through those areas, and then that data can be put back and uploaded to My Backyard Stream data platform. So once you have your data, you go to watersheddata.com/education and go to My Backyard Stream. There'll be up in the upper left-hand corner, it says Citizen Science Data Submission. You click on that and you'll see an easy to fill in form. So you can put in your site name and your coordinates, the date you were there, any of the water quality data you took. Again, this can vary, and we have groups that are taking different parameters. And again, this isn't a set in stone type of parameter that needs to be collected. Whatever they are collecting and getting out there and making their observations, we want to encourage that to be shared. So we left a place there for additional parameters or different, weather conditions, anything else they want to monitor and then upload. I do ask folks this does not post it publicly, but for their name and email, because when the data is submitted to me, if I have a question about it, I need to be able to get back in touch with them before posting it. And so all of these are vetted before they go online. So here's some examples when looking across the folks that have been using it so far in Ohio. You can see it shows on the map where the site is, shows on the right, the photo, and any of their observations. Some of these are just written observations. Some of these contain water quality data. It's really left up to the user what type of information they want to collect and how what they're going to put up here to share. So for our educators, the resources that are available, I just showed you the My Backyard Stream and those kits that will be distributed throughout those counties. We also have on our YouTube channel for the Appalachian STEM Enrichment Academy a video that goes through and shows how to collect data using the instruments that are, the supplies that are in each of those kits. So that's available, and we will be also doing some Train the Trainer videos that we'll add to that YouTube channel this spring. And then we also have, I mentioned the Appalachian STEM Enrichment Academy. This is soon to launch this month, and I have a slide, I'll talk about that next. And we also provide professional development opportunities for educators in the region through the Ohio STEM Learning Network. And those have been on topics such as state science standards or science fair, how to come up with cool experiment simulations to be able to do in the classroom. So this is the soft launch. You can find it right now if you go to this website. It's been launched. We are populating this with more and more lesson plans as this year goes on, and we'll be doing the full launch later this month. So there are, on this site, it's a collection of K through 12 interactive STEM learning activities. So we'll say this is enrichment. This isn't following science standards or curriculum. This is just enrichment. And so those tracks there are the focus areas for each of our lessons. And feel free to go and check this out later. It's very interactive. There's links to videos and games and extension activities. So I'm going to end here with a thank you to our funders for all the different elements here for My Backyard Stream. And my contact information is there if you want to reach out. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jen. Man, if I were a teacher seeing this presentation, I would be so excited. I went to that website, and one thing I appreciated, you know, in addition to all of the stream-based and riparian activities that you have, you also have activities developed in the classroom where the students can set up their own experiments or, you know, set up their own activities within the classroom before they even get out in the field. So I thought that was a really neat aspect of it, and certainly, you know, going to make it user-friendly for the teachers as well. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so excited for our next speaker, Laura Mattingly. Laura is a planner and project manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in the Louisville district. Laura earned her Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Conservation Biology at Murray State and has a master's degree in land use and environmental planning from the University of Louisville. She has over 9 years of planning experience and received her AICP certification in 2007. So today, Laura's going to talk to us about Indiana Stream Health 101. This presentation is going to provide methods for producing an outreach program to educate Indiana residents on stream function and best management practices to avoid negative watershed impacts. So happy to have you, Laura, and take it away.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I'll just get right into it. So the Indiana Stream Health 101 project was a partnership with our Silver Jackets Indiana team. Go ahead and go into this. I'm sure a lot of people here know what Silver Jackets is, but Silver Jackets are they're state-based, multi-agency organizations that focus on creating cohesive solutions to flood risk management and also things like floodplain management, natural disasters. But we do focus on flooding mostly. For this Indiana project, we had kind of a lot of the typical agencies that participate in Silver Jackets, the Indiana Department of Natural Resources and FEMA. Then we do sometimes have partners that from nonprofits or from universities, and we did have a member from the University of Purdue. So the overall scope of this project was to develop a framework for an engaging educational workshop that could be shared throughout the state of Indiana. For this, we were planning to create a digital package that could be delivered to members of the team so that they could go out and get out in the community and deliver these workshops. So there was a big focus on being engaging, kind of like what Jen was talking about, the 5 E's. You know, we wanted to really make this an interesting and engaging workshop. And then also we wanted to include some social media component. And then there was an element of the project where we wanted to deliver the workshops and do kind of get feedback on how to improve it. And you'll notice that I'm talking about some of this in the past tense. And that's because as we all talk about all the time now, this all occurred, it was scoped sometime in early 2020, I believe, and then we actually began the project in early 2021. So by the time we actually got to start the project, there was a ton of uncertainty about being able to deliver these in person. We had no idea what that time frame was going to look like. So we started off the project with just tons of uncertainty. We talked about different approaches to kind of mitigate this, and then maybe in the future be able to, or towards the end of the project, still be able to deliver these in person. So we talked about doing some, just the preliminary work, filming and things like that, because we wanted to include video in it. And then beginning those workshops later in the project than what we had originally planned. We talked about doing a virtual workshop that could just be recorded and shared. And then also we talked about workshop packages that could be delivered to different audiences. And then it was at this time that we started also really focusing more on the virtual element to this project, where we would do a story map and include more social media. So I'm going to try something here. I know time-wise. So this is just an example of a really simple virtual tool that maybe could be used. I'm going to have to go online here. So if everyone has, I'm sure everybody has their phones near them. If you, at the top there, you can just text. It's mostly my name, Laura Madding, or sorry, 085, and you text that to the number 22333, and then you can just answer why streams are important to you. Let's see if we can get a few answers here. So the purpose of this is, just to show one little tool that can be used to be more engaging when you're online. All these virtual meetings, they do get kind of tedious at times. So we were trying to consider that, and we were thinking about tools like this. I'm not getting any. That's okay. If we don't, it's okay. I'll wait just another minute. Oh, there we go. Lungs, yep, okay. So that's kind of thinking about just how streams and riparian zones with vegetation can help with air quality. I think that's what that's getting at. The aesthetic quality, thinking about preserving the planet. Let's see, clean drinking water, recreation, that's a big one. Water source, I believe is what that says. Biodiversity, yes, absolutely. So, okay, I'll leave it at that. Thanks you all that responded, I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to go back into presenter mode here. So another point of that was to also show that, depending on, everybody has different ideas of what's important. I think, everybody on this meeting cares about water, so there's that in common, but then everybody has their own focus, sort of, right? So in addition to trying to figure out how to still have an engaging workshop in a more virtual world, we also had the challenge of a collaborative team from different agencies with different opinions trying to come together to find a focus for this. So, excuse me, that just popped up. So once we kind of got over the COVID shock and trying to figure all that out, we got into getting back on track and clarifying our focus of what we actually wanted to present to people. So we came up by looking at certain elements that were focuses and important to the team. We came up with a theme called Give the River Room. And that was meant to kind of just bring attention to the fact that streams and rivers need space to do their natural thing, to meander, to have vegetation around them that helps them keep the natural hydrology, and it helps them to stay healthy. So part of our social media campaign, so like I said, we went more virtual at this point. So we wanted to do a social media campaign. And we did some video where we went out into, we went to the Blue River, and we partnered with the Nature Conservancy and did several different shots, not only with Cassie, but with other members of the team, talking about just stream health in general, why it's important to give the river room. I'll play this. It's just 60 seconds, which is one of the takeaways from this project. Is for social media, you know, at first we had videos that were 2 and 3 minutes long. For social media, you can't really do that. Videos need to be short for everyone's very short attention span these days. You're getting a lot of information all at once, so it's good to have your message be very concise. And I'll play this briefly here, just to give an example. Can you all hear it?
I cannot hear.
Can't hear it? Oh, you all can't hear it?
Unfortunately not. I know I personally can't. I don't know if.
No, that's okay. Sorry about that, you all. Well, that's, you get the idea though. We got out there, yeah, sorry everybody. We got out there, we had Cassie, who was wonderful and very knowledgeable, and you know, had all the shots of being on the ground and seeing all these, not only the problems that exist in streams, but also just all the good things that are out there as well, to kind of show the importance. Another part of our social media campaign were these little infographics that are just, they're pretty, they have a good amount of information on them, but they're very concise. So this is also part of that. And then what ended up being probably the biggest component, oh, thank you, Nick. Okay. Probably the biggest component to the project ended up being the story map. So I'm sure you're all familiar with story maps. They are, you know, as far as being online goes, they're probably one of the more engaging experiences that you can have. There's lots of choices and clicking around and videos, maps usually. So we created a story map for Give the River Room. Part of that also was creating a physical model. So these videos are included on the story map, also for the social media campaign that can be used there as well. But this physical model is just meant to represent different scenarios and how they affect how water travels through a river system. So this one right here has a representation of a parking lot, so lots of impervious surface and how that water just runs right off and into the stream. We have some other ones like wetlands, and also how sediment can be affected by different scenarios and how it travels through the system. And then some other elements of the story map. We provided general information just about types of streams, why stream protection is important to, you know, to prevent floods, hydrology, just how it all works, and then also existing conditions of streams, like the problems that exist. We provided case studies of restoration efforts, and then of course ways to get involved further. So I just wanted to end with a few lessons learned from this project. It was just an interesting, it was a fun project, but it was challenging and interesting. As I mentioned, the challenges of collaboration. So I would say a big takeaway from this was to get everyone on the same page first, to get that focus so that you can really work together to have the best possible results. And then planning for things to go wrong, giving yourself plenty of time to, you know, to go a different direction if you need to, kind of a plan B and things like that. Also frequent meetings, which we did do, and they were extremely helpful to keep that constant communication and documentation of conversations that we had, so that, you know, we had that that documentation of decisions that were made. That was super important. And then I would just say starting that material collection early was also very important. So another good thing that has come out of this project is there are future similar projects that the Silver Jackets are doing. We have an Indiana Dam Safety and Indiana Wetlands 101 projects. So basically that same Silver Jackets team is taking things that we learned from this project and applying those to the new project, so they're going to be even better. And then the Kentucky Dam Safety, so that's a different Silver Jackets team, but you know, us at the Corps are involved, and I'll be involved in that and can definitely apply these lessons learned to that as well. That concludes the presentation. So there's my email there. So the actual, the story map and the social media campaign, the whole deal is, it's been created, but it is now in the hands of Indiana DNR, who will be releasing all of this later this year. They wanted to wait a little bit. They had some other projects going on, and they wanted to release all of this concurrently with that. So that's their website that it will be on later. And I think that's it. I'll take questions whenever we're ready. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Laura. And we actually will switch gears into taking questions that have been kind of building up through all of the presentations. But Laura, if you don't mind, do you have access to the social media video that you all created? I know the story map is still in the hands of the state, but if you have anything that you tried to share, you know, that you would want people to have, feel free to go ahead and type those links in the chat right now.
Unfortunately, I have the videos, but they're not available online anywhere. They will be available later. So, but it's okay. You guys can just anxiously await when they come out.
Well, I'm excited for them. They looked really good. I appreciate all the, you know, all the quality of kind of pulling all this new technology together. And, you know, I think the story map, once it's available, is going to be really effective. So good work, especially given all the challenges you had to endure trying to get this project
It's important, you know?
That's right. All right, so I'm actually going to hand it over to David Wicks. He's the leader of Orba's recreation group, and he's been monitoring the chat for questions, and we'll share some of the questions that he's received.
Yes.
For
Well,
speakers, of course, not for him.
It was a fascinating conversation, and I'm just so excited to hear 3 different states being represented. One of the questions comes in is, how many different state projects are there, you know, in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and is there an organization that citizen science projects like this belong to, that if we wanted to really identify them? So it's up to anybody of those 3. Would love to hear that. Marlissa, maybe with you being in it for 25 years, or Kentucky Watershed Watch, do you know of other organizations in the basin?
Yes.
You're on mute.
Sorry. There is a national citizen science organization. I'm not coming up with the exact name of it right now. That's a good resource. I've also been collaborating with several different southeastern sampling organizations, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina. We're going to have a presentation in June, a panel that we're presenting, kind of comparing all those different sampling programs, and I hope to learn a lot from that. But I will find the name of that organization and post it in the chat in just a minute.
Melissa, I think it's just, it's citizenscience.org, I believe.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about the same organization. It's very simple. And they do have a call out right now for posters and presentations. They're gearing up for their annual presentation. So that's the larger umbrella, but I think, you know, for your question, David, within each of the states, there's dozens in each of the states. And because citizen science happens at a local level. And so I know, Heather, there's multiple ones in the Cincinnati area you could talk to. I know up in the Lake Erie Basin, there's several. When we did the research for My Backyard Stream, kind of in Southeast Ohio, we didn't have any representation for a citizen science program in Southeast Ohio, which is not uncommon. It's very rural and things are spread out, and that's kind of a common theme for the rural part of the state. And then we have a large, for Ohio, we have a Ohio Volunteer Monitoring Network that is organized out of Columbus at a state level, but we don't have a coordinated effort in Southeast Ohio. So there's other regions within Ohio that those are coordinated. So it's hit or miss, and there's multiple within each state.
All right, thank you. You know, another question for Laura is, does Silver Jackets have a similar project like that, like what you described for Indiana and all the other states? You know, does the U.S. Army Corps work with Silver Jackets to promote citizen science and understanding of stream ecology?
Yeah, so there's the Indiana Wetland Project this year. So that's one that is happening currently. I would say just because we have some experience with this now, and I know there's a lot of interest from Silver Jackets, I could see more of these in the future as well. And then, like I said, they do have, there's both an Indiana and a Kentucky dam safety project going on right now as well.
It sounds great. Well, we have about 2 minutes left. I just wanted to see if we could just do a quick round robin of where do you see citizen science in 10 years from now? And you're first, Laura. Where do you see citizen science in 10 years?
I would just say that I think interest in the environment is getting to be, there's more and more all the time. You know, I think people are engaged, and I would hope in 10 years that it's better than ever.
How about you, Jen?
Personal monitors on everyone, and it uploads to their phone really super quick, and we get great data all at once. That might be several more years out, but if we could be where Kentucky is in 10 years, that would be great. Having an orchestrated basin-wide approach and set similar parameters, and uploading that, and then using that to inform, you know, the agencies, you know, and I think each state is going to be at their own pace and rate of that level of data. But yeah, the smartphones for water would be cool.
Yes.
Marissa?
So we're working on that. We're piloting an app so that samplers can enter their data directly into our data portal, and we can screen it before it's made public. But I think that engaging samplers that way, that people are so used to doing everything with their phones now, can make it more efficient and timely, and maybe a little more fun for the younger crowd. We're also having conversations with the Division of Water about ways that we can structure our sampling better so it's more useful to them, whether that's for like success monitoring or focused projects, priority areas, trying to better synergize our efforts so that it's more impactful for everyone.
That sounds wonderful. My hope in 10 years is that we have such robust programs in all of the states in the Ohio River Basin, and they coordinate back and forth with each other, so we realize the watershed that we all live in. And Heather, we're going to put you on the spot here. Heather, you did such a great job as MC. Where do you think citizen science will be in 10 years?
I can tell you where I hope it would be. I think one of the keys to achieving what you just said, David, about having the states communicate with each other, and I could definitely foresee, I would love to have schools communicating with each other and students sharing their data. not even within the same region, but across the US and even around the world. I hope that there comes along some unifying platform for all of this data. I think everybody's done an amazing job of kind of working to create their own platforms that do work on a large scale. But I think the key to all of this really syncing up is going to be one platform that everyone knows how to connect to and can use and unifies all this.
Well, what a perfect way to end a webinar. There's still quite a number of people online. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and put your camera on and share your vision for 10 years from now, you'll be more than welcome to. But this is officially the end of the webinar. Please stay tuned. March 16th, we have 5 historic lock houses with, their bed and breakfasts, their educational institutions, their community access points. It's just a fascinating system up and down the entire Ohio River. March 16th with the Ohio River Basin discussion series.
Hey,
Heather,
David, is that 16th? That's a Wednesday. The 15th is a Tuesday. Is it going to be the same time, same place on the Tuesday? Is it going to actually fall on a Wednesday? I just realized that.
I think it's going to be on a Wednesday due to a professor at Thomas More University. So we changed the time for Chris Lawrence.
Perfect. That's all I wanted to know. So Wednesday,
12 noon.
16th.
That's right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
We'll get
you.
this posted. It was fascinating.